So we got the FE350 and ready for the Oregon trip, so we got to change the tire. The TX300 right there. We got the Moto's Extreme Hybrid. It's a gummy. So this is the one we're putting on. It's a DOT approved tire. I've actually only used it for a little bit on that bike. And then this is the same tire, so we're going to take this one off. So we're going to get the wrenches. Tire, you got your soapy water, shake it up. Just dish soap. Get that ready. Then, let's see. So that is the rim lock. Take these covers off, caps off. We got the Tubliss system on. Put these in my back pocket. And then we're going to try to let the air out of the high pressure. Let all the air out of the high pressure, and then if the bead breaks, usually the air will come out of the other one, but we're going to let that out of the inner, the tubeless tire. Okay, whatever's in there is out now. Now this is also a rim lock, so we're going to loosen this up. Actually doesn't come off. We're not going to take it off all the way. I'm going to loosen it up quite a bit though. Pretty much all the way. Get it to the end of the threads there. Okay. Now we're going to take this rubber thing off. Let's see, we're not taking the tubeless off. So, we don't really need to do that. What we need to do now, lube it up a bit. There's the soap. Okay. Flip it over. Same thing on this side. We're going to get our hammer. This is the YZ, I guess you were wondering. Now we want to look at it, so it's kind of raining a little earlier. Yeah, it looks better now. You can see it. So, let's see, we're going to push this one in. That's the bead lock. We're just kind of going around a little, trying to break that bead. Flip it back over. Same thing on this side again. And kind of push down on it too, and it just kind of breaks. Sometimes that's easier. Alright. Yeah, there we go. It's probably going to be a little easier with the used tire. FYI. Okay. So now we're going to start over here I'm going to go counterclockwise. Here's the bead lock. I want to get that out of the way first, but I start a little bit before it. So what we're going to do is, let's see, we're going to probably have to get a couple in here. Main thing is you don't want to pinch the inner bladder. So we're going to use a couple of these bigger ones. Getting these set up. Pretty much the same process with the inner tube at this point, the regular inner tube. Okay, so we're going to go directly across from the starting point and get that bead down in there into the drop center. If you have to, you can put a wrench on the other side and just gently work your way up. Don't let it slip, and just like to hold a hand kind of if in the middle or one hand on the bottom, so that if it does slip, it doesn't just fling into your face. So rotate it. Those ones are kind of holding themselves nicely right there. Right where the bead comes and starts to go underneath, right there. Right at that point, you want to come over just a little bit. The bead lock's right there, so it's kind of in the way. We're going to go a little bit more. And we're going to just use the smaller one. This is where we want to be, so we're going to go actually this way a hair and take that same theory. Right where the bead's going under, kind of close to where we're at. I'm looking down in there, I can see the red. I would be looking for the inner tube if it was no tubeless, just to make sure I'm not pinching it. You want something that's real rounded. Check your tire irons, make sure there's no burrs on them before you start. Okay, you can use the plastic things to protect your rims. I try to just be easy on them. You can always touch it up with a little Sharpie. It ends up being more of a hassle using those things. So once you get going, we'll get that off. Take these extra tire irons, put them to the side. Now we should be able to get in here pretty easily. Okay, same thing, don't pinch that inner bladder. Which would be your tubeless, which would be your standard inner tube. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this. I do it the same way whether I have an inner tube or a tubeless. I've been meaning to get a tire changer for years. This old ATV tire works pretty good. So we're going to start again here. Just checking my tire irons. No burrs. So where's our starting point? Right in here. I'm going to start before this one. Right around here. Now that tape is not, there's red tape, so don't mistake that for the inner bladder cover. See, there's the carcass. The red is the carcass of that red orange right in there. So we can get two maybe to start it. 1, 2. Get your third one. Sneak it in right here. If you have to, you can back one of these off a little. Sneak that other one in. It's giving you trouble. Don't push it in too far. That one's in a hair too far. But it's not catching anything. So then we'll back it off a hair like I was saying. Okay. Just slowly, I can see the red in there. I'm not catching anything. You can hook this underneath like that if you like. We can take this middle one out, and we're gonna try to sneak. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go backwards on this one, about an inch over from that point where it goes under, where the bead's heading under the rim. And again, just nice and easy. Back it off a little if you have to. Okay, that looks good. And we'll get this one out, and we could probably take this one out too. Just rotate it like that, kind of. So we're gonna try to come right in here if we can. It's kind of a tricky little spot. Let's take this one out. I think we're just gonna ease it out. And I like to use this little one right here because it just clips in nicely, and I don't need a lot of leverage at this point, so the big ones are nice, but they're not always necessary. So keep going along. At this point, kind of pick up the pace a little, and at that, really it just comes off. So now the Tubliss is going to stay on the rim. If it was an inner tube, at this point you'd want to put it down like this, so the valve core stem is down just like I got it, like this. If it was a regular inner tube, you would take your nut off, or whatever kind of rubber piece or nut you have that holds the valve core to the rim. You take that off, have the valve core on the bottom like that, and your inner tube is going to be in your tire if you're not using Tubliss. And then at this point you can pretty much pull it like this, and you just pull it out, and that's where your valve core stem right there will just come. That's why you want it on the bottom, because if you have your inner tube will be in your tire still. That's where your valve core will just pop right out of your rim like that. So then the same concept will go in reverse when you're putting it back on. You put your inner tube in your tire first, and what I'd like to do is pull that bottom part out where the valve stem is, pull it up a little, and I'll put a tire iron or a little wrench right through the middle here so it doesn't slip back down in there. And then you set your hole up and you line it right up on there like that. Screw your little nut down, and if you're not using a nut and you're just using the rubber piece, I'll take the rubber piece off and use the little rubber. Sometimes people like this, one of these. So if you're using one of those, I'll take that off, put the nut on there just for installation, and then you can put that back on. So basically slide that on there like that. You get it set up, put your nut on, snug it up just like fingers snug so that it's seated all the way, and then you can take that wrench out, drop it all the way in there, and then basically that would be the reverse process, which we'll show you. We're not going to be using a regular inner tube. So this tire looks pretty good. The Tubliss is another thing, is it's pretty clean in here. It doesn't chaff a lot, and that reduces heat buildup, and the tire doesn't wear out as quickly. See that? And the inside there's slime in there, but that's it. And it's relatively clean. I mean, other than the slime, there's nothing in there. So we're not, that's done. That tire's done. The side knobbies were okay, but I used that on the road a lot, so I wasn't leaning hard. This is the same tire here, so we're going to be doing a double take here. So we're putting this one to the side. We'll rinse this off before we'll rinse that off before we start, and then we'll get a basket set up for the next rim too. I guess that's not really necessary, to be honest. So what we're gonna do here, get this one up here, and we're doing the same exact thing. So this tire's a little more dirty. This rim is a little dirtier, so let's just hit it real quick with this sprayer, soapy water. Just kind of clean it off a little. You don't want any dirt going in there. Okay, flip it over, same thing. Just blast it. And for good practice sake, grab a little brush. This one's pretty dirty, so we're gonna just give it a nice little scrubbity poo. Just a little. And these are they're like rim protectors. I think they're the tusk ones, the spoke protectors, the black ones. I like using those. When you get a new bike, I didn't put them on the 125. It was just so shiny I couldn't do it. It's kind of a bitch too. This is a good time too to clean up your, you come in here and you kind of just prep this a little bit, let it soak a bit. My floors, the water goes down into the ground, so it doesn't matter. It's inside here because it goes down through that indoor-outdoor carpet. Just kind of hit that a little, let that stew while we're at it. Okay, hit your brush, wash that off. Now we're gonna spray it one more time. Give yourself a couple more pumps. Get some of that dirt off. Just let it go down the drain. Now, one more time. It's extra. Okay, so we'll start things off. We come around here. I got those other caps in my pocket, so we're gonna do the same thing with these ones. I like wearing these leather gloves. It's a little trickier, but so we're gonna let the air out of the high pressure first, which is the smaller one here. That's supposed to be at 100 pounds. It could have been a hair less, but just let it all out. If there's anything in this one, we'll let that out. But it's not entirely necessary, because as soon as you break this bead down, it's pretty much gonna just let the air out anyways. Let's spike a little space here. You might need to let a little bit more air out of it. Nope. So let's hit it with a big one. Where are we gonna start? Let's flip it over. I like to start on this side because I don't want to screw my disc up. I feel like the sprocket's a little more durable. You do run a little higher risk of ripping your shit open on that, but excuse me. But ripping your finger across that. So let's see. The Tubliss is a 14. I think the standard's 12 millimeter socket. This is 14. I think it's at like 12. You just actually have to, they want you to torque it to, I think, somewhere around 11, 12 pounds. 13 at the most.
Who are you talking to?
The camera. It's a new thing people do. They talk to the camera. That's why you see the movies where people are talking. Okay, so we're gonna start off on this side. Just kind of break that bead down a little bit more around everywhere.
Look back there at all, John, or not?
Yeah. Some people think you're crazy, but you're really fucking, you're a genius. Alright, Billy. Salt tire iron. Let's get her going. Alright. There we go. You see it kind of snugged up. Pulled it into the drop center on that other side. Just kind of pre-stretch it a bit. You can tell this one's a little stiffer of a tire. It's newer, so it's might be a little trickier to get it going. Let's see if we can sneak one in right here and just get this over with right at the beginning. If you get that set up, you can do it sometimes. So let's see. Nice and easy. One. I'm not pulling all the way quite yet. There we go. Two. Don't let it slip. That's why I kind of just only choke up as much as I need to. We're not quite getting it there. It's pretty much going to hold, I think. We'll take this one out. We'll take this one out. Pretty sure we can take them all out at this point. They're just barely holding on right there. So we're going to just pull this one nice and easy. Okay. I'm going to swing it out this way so we can take it out. And we're going to keep going this left for a minute. Okay. Ease it out. Okay. I think we're going to go for at least one more bite here. Okay. We should be able to get in over here now. Okay, there it goes.
You know that little, did you take that thing out? That thing that goes on the bottom of the shower, Josh?
Oh yeah, it's over there in the shower.
How come you didn't want it over there in that one?
I don't like it. Okay. Excuse that, don't worry about that. So now we're gonna start over here again, flip it over, and start out with a couple big ones. Same thing. 1, 2, and we'll just go this way. 3, 1, 2, watching it easy. Okay, 3. Okay, we can take these out. We can leave this one in if we want, and just kind of try to sneak this one in like that. See how I did that? If you have to, you can do it like that. Kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward kind of thing. All right. So we'll go a couple more this way. I just like the little one on this guy here. It has that small little hook at the end, just enough to bite it. It's really rounded over and everything too, so it doesn't doesn't tear your inner tube or catch anything. So once you get a good bite off, you can usually, just like before, pretty much just take it off with your hand almost. So for good practice, I'll just keep it at the bottom, and then this one we got some slime built up in there, so gunk of slime. Just pull it out like that. So it's actually not that bad. And then so what we're gonna do here is that slime is still good in there. That's not dirt, it's slime, so it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. This is the one we're gonna use. That's for the TX. This is for the FE. So we're gonna get our tire, double check, make sure it's not directional. We got DOT approved, and then I don't think it's directional. I don't see any arrows. Check the other side. Okay, so if it's not directional, I'll usually pick the side that has the best forward traction. So that would be this side here. That's the best leading edge. So you want it like this, so that if you're looking at the side of the bike like that, that side's the side that's spinning, and this edge here is the side that's driving you forward. So we want it like that. So we're going to set it down like this. And sometimes it's better to start this off on the ground. And when you press on it, it opens up a bit. So start with the bead and the air core on the bottom. And sometimes you just either push it down or sit on it a bit. And just get the whole, if you can, try to get the whole. Now this is where you'd be lining up. If your inner tube was in there, you'd have your inner tube in your tire with your little wrench going through there, holding the bottom portion of the inner tube up, with the valve core up. You'd slide that on. You'd slide your valve core through the rim, tighten that nut up just snugly, remove that little wrench and just slide it down in there. And then at that point it would be the same process as this. So you basically would be lining it up. The difference is on this, you don't have to quite line it up as much, and you might only be able to get half of it in with the valve core. So if you do have the stem, you might only be able to get it, part of it in like this on the bottom on one side, and you'd have to work your way around like this. We're going to try to get the whole thing in. It's kind of, this is where it's a slightly bit different with Tubliss. So you can come in on this side and push, make sure that you're not going past it. You want to get it all the way down in there. Okay, and then you can roll the tire forward a bit and backwards so you can keep going. Basically, you want to, it's catching over here on this side of it. You want to get it down in there, okay? Felt it right there, just kind of slip in. And it's not going to go all the way, but you're going to get it as far as you can. Okay? And then you want to try to repeat that process that you did when you were putting. So this part, you basically come in like this from this bottom side. And right at that point where the bead is crossing over the rim, I'm going to try to catch more of it, right? See how I'm hopping over? Help it out a bit if you can. And we're just going to go, we're going to spin it. You can spin it or you can alternate. And then it just fell into the rim, fell into the tire. So that's what we wanted. So we're going to start with this side up. Okay, sprocket side up. Now we want to get this bead lock area in first. So first we're going to go like this, and we're going to kind of just start on this half, and we're just going to try to basically guide it in. If this were just a tube, we would be just trying to work our way on one side around like this, just like I'm doing, and then it would be very similar. You just have to keep this lined up with your valve core in your tire. So you want this part to be real snug up against there at that beginning point. So we would be this would be already crammed in there like that, and we would try to get that side in without moving the inner tube around, keeping it true to that hole where it wants to be. And then basically we would flip it over and repeat. So you have a little bit more freedom with the tubeless. You don't have to line it up quite as much. So basically you can see I'm guiding it in there. It's already on a path to making it in there successfully. So, and then once you get it about halfway, just a hair less, you can kind of slide it in. See how I grabbed that and slid it in there like that? You want to get that seated, and then beyond that you want to drop it as far down into the drop center as you can. Press your bead lock in this way towards you and get that in there. And then we're just going to keep going around like this. And at this point, this tire's used, so again, it could be a hair easier than a brand new tire. You really got to push this other side here and get that into the drop center, and just keep coming around. Use a wrench on this side if you have to, and pull down on it like that. Have a friend help you if you have to, and just inch at a time or so. If it's starting to tear and pull on this bead and rip, then adjust it, knock it into the valve center a little bit. Make sure that it's the drop center. You really don't want to stretch that out. As soon as you get this other side down in there, it's going to help you a lot. So that's one of the major keys, getting this into the drop center. I'm just demonstrating, you pound it in there like that, get it down in there as far as you can. This one's going on pretty easy. So I'm going to try to get this, this probably will take two. So I'm going to get the smaller one in first and kind of help open it up just a hair to get the second one in, which is actually going to be the first one. So I'm going to space these out a hair, sliding it right there. Don't try to keep it right on the edge of the rim. Don't go too far, so you don't want to stab anything. So we're just going to go, don't push the tire iron into the rim too far, just right where it needs to be, and boom. Okay, so that's it on that side. So at this point, if you did have an inner tube, you'd want to make sure that it's straight, because you can still kind of, if it was off a little and your valve core was kind of going like this, you could still kind of twist it and shimmy it a little just by holding the rim, holding something on the rim, on the wheel, and spinning this around to getting it lined up. If it's just hair off, again with the tubeless, it's not a factor. So we're going to lube it up again, just a hair. And just the soapy water. And same thing here. Starting, here's our bead lock, and there's the valve core right next to each other. Traditionally it would be over probably on the other side, opposite from each other with the tube. So you'd start with you'd want to make sure you're getting this bead lock. So your valve core would be over there with the rim, right? The nut going through the rim, and you'd be directly across it generally with the standard. So see how this one has the rim lock here, and then the valve core's on this side. It's not exactly opposite, but it's pretty much. So you'd have your tube coming through there, and you'd be trying to start over here and work your way around. You just want to get that lined up. The bead doesn't have to be in there, but you want that to be lined up, and then you'd work your way around. You could start on that side if you wanted to, but it's going to be harder. It's kind of like there's a few different options, I guess you could go about it. It's kind of just like there's different techniques you try out and you develop your style. So I'm not always doing it exactly the same, but it's generally pretty much the same for the most part. It's where you get creative and kind of mix it up a bit. There's a lot of different ways to do it. As long as you're getting it on there and it's working properly, then that's what you want. No pinches, seating your bead. So we're just going to work our way around until it starts to snug up a bit. Watch this other one so it doesn't come flying down. And so it can be hard to finish right directly across because you can't get it down far. You can't get the tire down far enough into the rim, into the drop center right there. So I like to finish to the side of it a bit if I can. What I mean is I'll be finishing somewhere right in here or somewhere right in here. So I'll probably work my way this way and finish right here because I'll be able to get this down in here a bit if I have to. We'll let that one off so that when I'm finishing, let's see, I don't want this to be anywhere near that. So we'll back this side off a hair like that. So I'm coming to finish. I'm imagining I'm coming. This is the last portion I'm getting over. I'm still directly across from that, so I want to back it off a hair more. And you don't have to back it off completely just yet. Take a couple more bites out of this side and get it on there. And that looks pretty good right there, somewhere in there. You could go more. We'll see how it's working. But I just wanted to note that if you had to, you can adjust where your final pull is. This tire is used, so it's already a little stretched. See how it dropped down there? Just a hair, just a little bit. That makes a difference, big difference. Just a hair all the way around ends up, when you go around the whole outer, the farther you go out, you know, it makes it a longer circumference. So just a little bit dropping it down into that center is going to give you more than you think. It's going to give you more than you think. Like I said, it's the key. So I'm going to do that very thing. I'm going to let this side go a hair. I'm not going to take it off, but I'm just not going to hold it down. So if it wants to climb off a little, that's okay. I'll chase it a little is what I'm saying. And then that's the last one right there. Boom. So that's it. That's how you do it. And you kind of just go around, knock it around a bit, look at it, make sure the bead's getting ready to be seated correctly. We're gonna lube it up again. Just kind of don't want it to be pulling excessively anywhere. You want it to just, you're getting it ready to seat, so you want it to be nice and lubed up. It's not 100% necessary, but it definitely helps. Sometimes you can get away with it out on the trail or whatever, but you have to. So at this point, let's see, the best thing to do is, for me, I'm gonna put this down. And actually, hold on, we have the Tubliss. So because we have the Tubliss, we're gonna tighten our rim lock. I guess you could tighten, you wouldn't want to tighten your rim lock really until you seat your bead. So we're not gonna snug that up. Let's see. Yeah, we want it to pull out. If you have an air compressor, then that's great, hooked up. But I don't have mine hooked up. So we're just gonna start on the, let's see. We actually are going into this other one here. This is the high pressure one here. And so sometimes this is where you need the nut because there's nothing there. You can't push it down enough. Let's see if we can get it on there. Looks like we got it. So you can see it's already pushing the whole entire bead out all the way around. It's only 40 pounds approximately. That's generally what it takes, around 40 pounds. So, I mean, to push the bead out, you wouldn't want to pump up the tire more than really 40. I would say generally 30 is your number, 30 pounds to get that to seat and pop out. If it's not, get it up to 40. And if it's not, don't go more than that really. You go a hair more if you have to, but don't go much more than that. And then check it, feel it with your finger. If you have to, let the air out and then pump it back up. If it's not seating correctly, knock it around, lube it up again. Sometimes with old tires like this, it can be hard if you're reusing a tire to get it to seat correctly on the bead. But this one's looking great. So we're gonna basically just pump it up as much as we can by hand because Tubliss is supposed to be at 100, so I think we can get to around 80 with this pump. That's about it. And then the trick here is you want to pull this off as quick as you can, basically because that air is flying out of there so fast that you're losing so much. You basically just want to be ready to, as soon as you pull it, just go for it. Try not to lose any air, because at that rate you're losing a lot at that, how fast it comes out. This is high pressure, low volume, essentially. So now we can put it up here again and see how our bead's all nice and set out. So we're going to snug this up just a bit, quite a bit, and then they want you to torque it to, I'm gonna say like 11 pounds. But this thing actually pulls through quite a bit, so don't be surprised if you're just spinning it and spinning it and spinning it on the Tubliss, because don't go overboard, but this thing actually pulls through quite a bit. So at least on this is Gen 2 Tubliss. Oh, it's becoming a nice day. It was like almost gonna rain a little bit this morning. I'm all geared up for cold. I gotta take some of this stuff off. Okay, we're gonna get the torque wrench wherever it's at. I don't even think I have it over here, to be honest. It's in the van. I'm just gonna snug it up, boys. I mean, it's kind of tricky to get the torque wrench on there anyways. We use the box end so we don't slip, now that we're only rotating in fractions. And I'm looking for, like I said, the threads on this thing. Give it a little extra. Well, you can feel it. Pretty much snugs up, and then they're pretty strong, but you don't want to strip them, so that's about it right there. You can feel it. Probably has a little bit extra in it. It's not right on that verge. So, okay. If we can sneak onto this one, that's where we just pumped up. Okay, so I like to push my rubber piece down all the way so dirt doesn't get in there. I guess some guys put a nut on there too, but when you do that, you can't fit the valve cover on there, the valve cap. I mean, you might be able to with one of these small works connection ones. You probably could still get the nut on there. But I like that to be all the way seated, so I haven't had any problems with that. So we're going to snug that one up. And now we're going to pump some more air into this outer, it's basically the tire. Because we just put air into the inner chamber, that's what makes it tubeless, right? And then now we can pump up this one a bit and test to make sure it's sealing. Make sure that it's sealing the tubeless system. I've actually had tires that, like this tire isn't the greatest to run on tubeless, to be honest, because when you look at it, the inside of these are the same tires. When you look at the inside here, there's literally like these, I guess they're for dirt or whatever, but they're like these ribs right on the inside of the bead, and it doesn't help the system seal, so air can seep through there. You really want to find a tire that doesn't have that right there. But you know, this one you have to check a little bit. But the sidewalls are so stiff on this, and especially when you use the tubeless, that even if it's literally, if it's on zero, you can still make it back or even ride around a little bit, and you still be you're going to be safe. But I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend trying to get some after you wear it. Sometimes if it's not holding, I've had it be on zero for like, you know, on the road bike for a little while, until it like pretty much wore this piece out a bit, until it started to seal the inner. Because you can see this is where what happens. This is the tubeless, so the bead is going right into here, so it's sandwiching. Once this expands, it sandwiches the bead up against the rim and the inner carcass of the tubeless. So if you have those bridges like that, basically those are right up against this red carcass. So you could imagine how it would be hard to seal. So touching it so much, I got all this crap on my hands. So now, wipe your hands off. And we're just gonna pump this up more. Just FYI, if you're looking into tubeless, you might want to consider that. These are both used, so they're kind of already like I was saying, grooved a little. I think that they don't really hold the greatest, like I was saying. That older one I think might have held it a little better, just because it was worn. This one I'm probably gonna have to check a bit. I mean, it's not just dumping out, it's definitely holding. So that's good. We'll see how it's holding. Over time, we'll see. So now, that's, you know, that was pretty easy. For the most part, right? It wasn't too bad. Having the tubeless just makes it a little better. It's actually, to be honest, I was thinking about getting the new tech Nitro Moose, which is like a moose bib, as a, you know, competitor to the Michelin bibs or any other bibs. But you know, you pretty much have to have a tire changer to change those, and these have been through a lot. Like, they don't really wear down that much. I mean, I haven't had any issues with the inner high pressure thing either, so I don't know. There's always something, could be problems, with potential problems, but you know, you want to have a lot of rim tape on there, because that's your weak point right there, where your spokes, if you get loose spokes or really hit hard, they can push in. They're like little nails pretty much, right? I mean, so if you don't have a good enough tape on there on the backside, they'll just pop your high pressure. So you want, you know, Tubliss gives you good tape, but if you're doing it again and you don't have it, just use like the best kind of tape you got. We usually use like that red tape, or I mean, you could use duct tape, but it'll wear down over time and it kind of gets messy. Duct tape does. That other stuff is more similar to what the Tubliss is giving you already. Okay, so that's a done deal. Now we just put it back on the bike. Well, first actually we'll take these out. They're probably really bad, so let's see, what do we got? We have valve stems. I'm gonna put these on here. We got 1, 2, and we're not putting this tire on this one. This is gonna stay here, so I'll clean that. The slime is gonna dry. Since it's been enclosed in the tire, it doesn't dry. It kind of stays slimy. But once it's exposed to the air like that, it'll just crust on there, so you want to rinse it off. So later, once I get a new tire, we'll start over with new slime. It'll be nice. And get a new tire. That one doesn't need to be DOT. This is a more expensive tire, and I need it now, so. Plus I bought it for that intending to put it with the dual sport at the time I put it on that bike, because I wanted to run the same tire on both bikes, just to kind of get used to how it feels off-road. So when I take the dual sport off-road, yeah, this is actually ideal when you're for the dual sport, because you're taking it into all these different kind of terrains, and you need a tire that's like one of these. I prefer, so this is my tire of choice so far. It's kind of an unusual tire. I wouldn't run it unless it was a dual sport, but it's a gummy tire. It's like a hybrid tire, so it's like a trials tire, but it has more aggressive side knobbies, or side knobbies to begin with. And it's really, the rubber is really good rubber. You can tell it's like real rubber. Ellie says it made in Thailand. Motos. It's either Motos or Moto Z. I'm not seeing any nylon load range. Gummy. Anyways, yeah, this is a good tire for that kind of thing. And when you have the Tubliss, you can really you can run it low. Like when you're going, if I'm going in the sand or somewhere really muddy, you can let it just pretty much just about down to 0. And instead of trying to scoop with the knobbies, you're just laying flat and covering more surface area, right? You do get more flex in the sidewall when that's happening, so every rotation it's constantly flexing your sidewall. So, you know, it will wear over time, and it can show on your beat on the edge of your rim. Like, it can kind of show a little bit just from bending so much over every rotation. See what I mean? If this is flat, every time you go around, it's just flattening the rubber. So, but it doesn't really, you know, that's why you want a gnarly tire like this. And then for off-road, I usually like the Maxxis IT Desert. These are the stock ones. I'm not even running Tubliss. The stock tire that came with this bike was pretty good too. That was the Dunlop AT81. Yeah, and then I think that one is the AT81F. I think probably for front maybe. So anyways, let's pop it up there one more time and take a look at the difference in wear. You can still see the little sections on this one. I'd say it's probably twice as... This one's about half the size of these. Maybe a hair longer than half. The side knobs are just about new. I mean, I wouldn't mind using it if I was staying on the road. But since I'm going actually off-road and in the sand too, last time that tire was new, so it was probably in a similar condition as this one is, so it worked good, so should be good again. Let's actually wait a minute. Might not have been that exact tire. No, it was this tire.